Hello, and welcome to a Black Lung episode of the Drywall Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Harmon. With us today, Cullen Selinger of Elite Drywall. Cullen hails from Springfield, Illinois. He's a first-generation drywaller who stumbled onto this crazy trade when his home flooded and he wanted to save a few bucks. So you watch the videos on YouTube and you wrangle through the hanging. Then it's time to finish. What happens then?
I went and bought some paper tape, a 12-inch cobalt knife, a pan from Lowe's, and just started slapping it on.
Yeah.
No real rhyme or reason. And then I would just.
Did you get some bubbling?
I got a lot of bubbling. Yeah. There was a lot of bubbling, and there was a lot of cussing.
We talk about that, and we also talk about his days working in the coal mines and where he's headed with this crazy industry. We discuss boxing strategy on the job, and this one time when he had to fix a customer's DIY project, all kinds of cool stuff. Cullen is a great guy, and I know you're going to like this one. The Drywall Podcast is brought to you by Fresco Harmony, making walls better since 2004. Guests of the Drywall Podcast will receive a swag bucket from our friends over at CSR in Toronto. And now their new location in Barrie, Ontario. We appreciate them for that. The entire video of this podcast can be watched on our YouTube page. Head over there and watch to your heart's content, and make sure and give us a subscribe as well. I could go on, but I really want to get into this episode, the 75th episode with Cullen Selinger of Elite Drywall out of Springfield, Illinois. Let's do it. You've popped up quite a bit. I know you've been, is it just the Drywall Podcast, or do you follow the Fresco Harmony as well?
Oh, I follow, I follow the Drywall Podcast. I follow Fresco Harmony's page.
Cool.
I try to stay pretty current with everyone that's killing it in the industry right now.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Where are you located?
I'm located in Springfield, Illinois.
Okay. Why the fuck didn't you come down and play with us when we were at Chad's?
Man, so Sean reached out to me and said, "Hey, we're coming to Illinois to do this great fresco adventure," and he kind of gave me the lowdown. And he said, we're gonna meet Chad Hesher and Cam, and I was like, "Hey, if you guys have room, I'd love to drive down for a couple of days," but we got some news in the family that changed the dynamic of some things, and then work was just piling on. We found out we're expecting our fourth child, so
dude,
that kind of
shut the front door.
Yeah,
four.
Yeah, it was not expected. Let's put it that way. It was a bit of a shock to my wife and I.
Okay, and then your business name is Elite.
Yep, Elite Drywall Contracting.
You know what's funny about that is there's an Elite here in Albuquerque that crushes it with Fresco Harmony. Really good drywall outfit here. There's probably several Elites.
Yeah, I've heard you mention them a couple times on the podcast, and then on Instagram I've seen some of the work they've done. You give them quite a few shout outs.
Oh yeah. They could care less. I've gotten the guy like probably 5 entire houses finished in Fresco Harmony. Whatever. They don't want to do it.
As long as they're killing it, man.
They're very good. So anything that's kind of thrown at them, they pick it up and run with it. So they're like good as far as achieving the work, but they're not jazzed about it or anything. They just assume finished drywall. Yeah.
Right.
It's weird. It's weird who gravitates towards it and who doesn't, like all of that stuff. So you were actually inclined to joining us for the training or the Fresco adventure in Newton, Illinois. You had some some news and you couldn't make it.
Yeah. I reached out to Sean a couple times. I was like, hey, I'm going to try to make it down for one day because it's only about just a hair under 2 hours south of where I am. You've had Jason Griffin on your podcast in one of your earlier episodes. Drywall. Well, he's a phenomenal finisher, but he does the drywall sculptures, and I know he really likes fresco as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how it started. Was people enjoying the fresco, or they call and we have these conversations. So was the basis for the Drywall podcast. That and the Facebook groups. I thought there would be a lot more fighting on here than there has been, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We could get into a fight if you want.
No, I'm the least confrontational person you'll ever meet.
Yeah, you seem pretty chill. No, I've had just everybody that's been on. It's like when you come on here and, you're face to face, it's so much more personable, and
oh, absolutely.
All the drywallers are cool dudes, and dudettes for sure. So we have Cullen Selinger of Elite Drywall out of Springfield, Illinois with us today. This will be the 76th podcast. Pretty cool. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All I know about Cullen is that, you're very supportive on social media of mine. You always have been, and it was high time that we got you on the show. You are familiar with, I always ask, like, are you real familiar with the podcast? Sounds like you've listened to several of them.
Yeah, I am currently 4 episodes behind right now on listening to all of them.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're on top of it. Very cool. Any favorites out there that stand out in your mind? Any episodes you really like?
I liked, the first one, with the Paps Dugan. That one was awesome just because I've been following him. He's just a really cool cat. Mudman Dan Gray was awesome. He's just a super stellar dude. I've been talking to him online for years.
Yeah.
That helped me come up with my business name. And really great guy. And then there was one you did last year, and it was a kid from up north.
Yeah,
he was back in Columbia. I can't think of his name.
I already know who you're talking about. It's a honky tonk taper, man.
Honky tonk taper. You know what? He was a little arrogant on the podcast, but I got to respect the cut of his jib to come on here.
Yeah, I did too. I loved it. He was just cocky, and I loved it. I loved it all, man. And I talked with Brad at CSR and Aaron about it. Dude, they were like, they thought it was great.
Right. Yeah.
Those guys have pretty tough skin.
Oh, absolutely.
But Unique, he was a slop box guy. So we talk about the slop box. It was pretty cool.
Never ran a slop box, and I don't think I ever will. There's just the way I tape it, just for me and the way I operate, it just doesn't seem very efficient.
Right. So you mentioned 4th child on the way. If you don't mind, what are we looking at here, kids wise? You've got what are ages and sex of the kiddos? I like to ask that. I don't know why. It's just interesting to me.
Oh, for sure. My oldest will be 10 in February, and his name's Landon.
Cool.
And my second, she will be 5 in February, and her name's Emily. And then I have
little gap there.
And then I have a 16-month-old named Maylee.
Man, you guys are gonna be busy.
Only 31, so we thought we were done, but everything happens. So I'm told.
Yeah. There's a part of me that wants another one. I only have one, which is a lot, but he's 8. So I guess there's time. So between the new one and the 10-year-old, that's a pretty big gap. But
absolutely,
the newborn will be with the 16-month-old growing up, so they'll be causing trouble for sure.
Yes.
Cullen Selinger, are you first generation?
First generation drywall.
Yep. All right. How did you get into this wacky trade, man?
So in 2013, I bought my first house. My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, we bought our first house, and I went up north on a hunting trip, and our basement flooded. And we came back, and there was mold had already set in, and so we followed the steps, and we had the water sucked out, and it dried out, and I started getting estimates to get the drywall fixed, and they were coming back to tear it out and do the whole nine, $10, $12, $13,000 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I was 19, I believe. I was 19 years old. I was like, man, I'm a poor coal miner. I can't afford this stuff. So,
okay, so wait, you were coal mining prior to this?
Yeah, I was a coal miner for 8.5 years. So most of my adult life, I was a coal miner.
Okay.
Yep, underground coal miner.
All right. Wow, that's cool.
Yep, it was a wonderful career, and if the industry wouldn't have went the way it did, I'd probably still be doing it to this day. I loved every second of it.
That's freaking interesting. Out of Springfield.
I worked between two mines. One was about 40 miles south of here, and then one was about 10 miles north. Yeah, both they were bituminous coal.
Cool. And hard work, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it always blew my mind that when I told people I was a coal miner, they thought we were down there with pickaxes, buggies, and donkeys on coal out, and we had some of the most advanced technology you could imagine to process the coal. Yeah,
it makes me think of Zoolander, right?
Yeah.
I got the black lung. I got the black lung, Pop.
Yeah, but no, the industry went south, and I got out, and I went back to being a carpenter. My father was he worked in the farming industry most of his life, but he laid tile every weekend. He was a phenomenal tile guy, and so I just grew up between him and my uncles, just learning the trades and whatnot. And but back to the basement, I said, I talked to my wife, and I said, hey, we can do this. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to have to do this, So we rented a dumpster. I tore everything out. I sprayed it all with bleach and dried it and hung the drywall, and started caking it on and sanding it off.
So you're a can-do man. Did you watch some how-to videos when you went to hang the drywall and stuff? And what in our timeline, you're 31 now?
Yes.
How old are you when this flooding occurs?
This would have been 2012, 2013.
Okay, so about 10 years ago.
No, I started coal mining when I was 18 years old, when I got out of high school.
Okay, all right. So you coal mined past the timeline of the flood.
Oh yeah. I stopped coal mining in 2021, somewhere around there. 2021, give or take. Okay. So you watch the videos on YouTube and you wrangle through the hanging. Then it's time to finish. What happens then? I went and bought some paper tape, a 12-inch cobalt knife, a pan from Lowe's, and just started slapping it on. Yeah. No real rhyme or reason. And then I would just. Did you get some
bubbling?
I got a lot of bubbling. Yeah, there was a lot of bubbling, and there was a lot of cussing.
Yeah, that's I would say probably predominantly the first thing that happens if somebody's a layman going into it is they don't thin down their mud, and you got a bubble. You don't realize that you have to lather so much mud on there for your tape to adhere properly.
Oh, Nick, there was no, and keep in mind, this was green lid all purpose. So there was no whipping the mud up. There was no thinning it out. And there was no mixing it up in your pan to loosen it. It was picked it up and slap it on.
Yeah.
And boy, let me tell you, it looked awful.
Oh yeah.
I didn't even tape the inside angle. I caulked them.
Beautiful. Perfect. That's what they do in the mobile home. When I worked in the mobile home manufacturing, they did the upper angles. They caulked them all. My job was to walk around on stilts and caulk and paint the wall ceiling transition. I did that for like a few months off of stilt. That's how I learned to walk stilts.
Yep. And so after that, I was like, that was kind of a pain in the ass, but it was fun. You know what I mean?
Shut up. The mud was like through the cussing and the blood, sweat, and tears. The mud was like, Cullen, come on, buddy. You could do this. You could do this.
So I got online after that, and I found Phil from PRC Taping.
Okay.
And then I found the Drywall Doctor, which is an old timer out of Chicago, up by the Chicago, Illinois area.
Yeah, the dude in the water. He's in the water fishing off of stilts.
Mm-hmm. And I started watching their videos, and it just trickled out after that. And then I found out what Instagram was, and started finding all these people and following all these people. And I'd always, like I said, I always set tile with my dad, so I always was pulling side jobs, laying tile or this or that. Nothing too drastic.
All right.
And someone called me and said, "Hey, you know how to finish drywall?" And I said, "Oh yeah, phenomenal finisher." And I went there, and I took what little bit of knowledge I had about whipping mud out and the proper types of mud and the application process, and still caked it on. Not quite as heavy, but I understood the concept of feathering out your flats and butts and everything, and never stopped.
That's bold, dude. Mm-hmm. That's bold to be like, okay, I'll go finish. What type of project was that?
Oh God, let's see. I want to say it was.
Why the hell did they call you?
Just a family, it was either a family member's friend or a buddy's friend, one of those types of things. And if I recall, it was they ripped out their old bathtub and put a one-piece tub surround, and needed the drywall hung, and then the flanges around the tub taped, which is tricky to do anyways nowadays. But for someone that had no clue what to do, I mean, I tied in vinyl corner bead with old metal corner bead, and I just shot at the hip, and ultimately it was passable. I mean, probably if I went back now and looked at it, I'd be absolutely disgusted.
But anyone can drywall, so
well, that's what I thought too. And then honestly, Nick, it just kind of snowballed after that. When I find something interesting and I obsess over it, and I did for years. I kept pulling side jobs till one day I told Ashley, I'm like, "Hey, I'm getting enough calls and enough work, and I'm putting myself out there enough. People are wanting me, and by that time, I had some contractors that wanted me to do a little sub work here and there, piecework.
Okay, all right.
I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to roll the dice. I went and got an LLC and did it.
Weird. You were still coal mining up until that point. Now with the coal mine operation, did you have benefits and?
Oh yeah, I had a pension.
Sounds like you got paid well. Was that union?
No, we were one of the last states to have, or we were one of the first states to get rid of union mining.
Okay.
And thank God, I'm not inherently a pro union person. I get why we need unions, but for me, unions don't work. If something needs done to progress the job site, let's get it done, not wait for somebody else.
I like my coffee. You know that.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Have you ever heard of, real quick, because I just thought about this, have you ever heard of a Chemex coffee maker?
Yeah, I my friend has one, and I use that when I'm over there. We just got we were using paper in the Chemex. It's okay. I don't like that it doesn't keep the coffee hot. We were using paper, and then it was I don't use a paper filter here either. I do drip coffee. I'm a black coffee guy. But the Chemex, as soon as I got a reusable filter, it's like it's like one of those brass filters or something. Tastes great. It tastes great, but you have to reheat it all the time.
My wife's a coffee snob, and she loves it. I drink so much coffee. I pop a pot in the Keurig and go.
I don't even do Keurig because I drink more than that. I want a frickin' pot in the morning, and it's not, I don't do a full pot, but I want it there, this is sort of the last of it.
Right.
I get it. I've had a couple cups. I'm not like, 1 cup in the morning as an afterthought. No, I have to have it. It's first thing I get in the morning. I like to have 2 cups. And then if you're drinking black coffee, it's not bad for you.
No, it's not. So you start putting sugar and all that
Yeah.
chemical creamer in there that gets bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I've always drank it black. And so now I'm like, I'm a snob in that I like the taste. We have a company here in town called Michael Thomas. They roast their own coffee. It's super expensive. Whatever. I like French roast. I get it
Sounds about
ground. I'm not that snobby that I have a grinder. I did that for a little while. I'm like, that's a waste of time.
yeah.
Just grind it for me. So
Sounds about like the milk we drink in our house. We drink unpasteurized milk from a local farmer, and it is
okay.
crazy expensive. $9 a gallon.
Yeah, I get organic. Most of the food stuffs that I get is organic. Milk, I don't skimp on milk. It's the Costco milk is surprisingly good. I've just
Mhm.
started drinking that.
Yeah, we drink a lot of milk in our household.
I've heard too much milk is not too good, but you have the kiddos, so it's good for the kiddos, not so good for adults. But I don't. You have sort of a farm background, as you said. What did your dad farm?
So my dad wasn't a farmer per se. He worked for the farming industry on a state level. He was a board director for the state of Illinois, so he kind of regulated the grain industry for the state.
Okay, he was in
But
farming industry.
he was in the farming industry.
Okay, going back. This is interesting to me, Cullen. The mud reached out and grabbed you by the scruff of your neck
Mm-hmm.
and said, "You're coming over here. You're working as a coal miner and picking up side jobs doing mud, mostly because you like the mud and you enjoy working with the medium." As we've found out on the podcast, many of the interviewees also are taken with mud. This isn't something that like people do because they can't find anything else to do. Like Myron Ferguson said, he's like, I do this because I enjoy it. Um, you so much so the mud's speaking to you so much so that it pulls you away from this lucrative, you could say lucrative, secure job of coal mining to go, you're like, hey honey, I am going to start my own drywall company. Does she slap you in the face at that point and you have to sleep on the couch, or is she very accepting?
So when I brought it up to her, I tried to just casually bring it up, like, "Hey, what do you think about me starting my own business?" And at the time, she was a stay-at-home mother.
Okay.
Um, I I was fortunate enough to have a wife that was willing to stay home and raise our children.
Sure.
Um, I was the lucky one in that situation, but uh, when we found out we were having, or no, hold on.
Well, and let's say she's lucky as well.
Yes.
Stay-at-home mom is no picnic, and how cool is that that she gets to see her children be raised,
Yep.
and that you can afford in
Yep.
today's day and age, you can afford that for your family. That's cool.
Yep. And she had been toying with the idea it was maybe time to get back into the workforce. So she said, let me get a job so that way I can pick up the insurance and whatnot, and then you can do it. And she had a resume out. My wife's got her bachelor's and master's degree and in psychology and a minor in crim psych.
Okay.
And she put some resumes out. And the second she started putting resumes out, I started formulating my LLC, and I started talking to people like Dan Gray and several others about how to model your business, how to bid it out appropriately. Because at the time when I was still doing a ton of side work and I was making decent coin on the side,
Yeah.
I knew what my material cost, I knew how long it would take me, and then I just would throw a number out that would make me happy to do it. But I wanted to have a better business plan. Um, the the day she got an interview and accepted the job, I quit. And she went into full panic mode. And I'm like, "You said once you get a job, I can do it." And she said, "Yeah, I wanted to get, situated in a job." I said, "No, you said the day you get a job, I could do it." So the day
Okay. All
I got the
right.
job, I was out.
Sleeping on the couch came a little bit later.
Needless to say. And I
Uh,
ran it full time. I thought this was going to be great. I was going to be able to go hunt whenever I want. We were
sure.
going to
Oh yeah.
all the stuff we wanted as a family, and I was very quickly humbled to find out that is not the case.
No. Did you get some pushback from the jackals of social media when you went to ask questions about pricing, as the new people sometimes do?
No, and that's you've said it before on the podcast a dozen times. The drywall community as a whole is so receptive and opening and welcoming to people about everything.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I didn't know these people at all, and I just I follow them, I like them, I would
That's
comment,
cool.
and I would shoot them a message that said, "Hey," like Chad Hester. I didn't know
Yeah.
Chad at all. I just found him. I messaged him on Instagram. I'm like, "Hey Chad, this is who I am. This is what I do. I have some questions about the business. You think you could shoot me a text sometime?" He called me the next
Cool.
day,
Cool.
and it was phenomenal. The community showed so much support, for a
Uh,
nobody, and it was so helpful.
I'm glad to hear that. I really am. I think that for a little bit there, it was more challenging, but I feel like it's shifting, and we're becoming more accepting and supportive of each other in the trade. So cool, because we really need that in this trade.
Oh, undoubtedly.
Cool. So you've got your LLC. The wife has a job. Can we get her name if you don't mind? Maybe
Yeah,
just
yeah.
first name.
My wife's name is Ashley.
Ashley. Shout out to Ashley for believing in your husband and taking up the reins with the job too. A big shout out to her. So you now you have your LLC. What's your first step, man? What do you do?
So I had some work lined out before I left. I had a
Okay.
couple of I knew I didn't want to hang drywall. I would if I had to, but I made it very clear to some contractors that I was juiced in with, to let them know, like, hey, I'm not interested in throwing up rock. If
Okay.
it's a couple of feet, I will, but I just don't want to. I
Yeah.
like the like hanging. So I had two basements lined up. I had about
Okay.
3 weeks of work, and that was it. And then after that, I was just hoping the phone calls would start rolling in, and they did.
Were
I,
you doing any type of marketing or advertising at that point?
nope. Since I was a one man operation, I didn't want to try to blow up. I wanted to get in with some builders. I wanted to get in with some Reno guys, and just be, hey, I wanted to basically be their guy that they called us and said, hey, this is what I have. I need you on this date. They know my pricing structure, and I showed up. That was my ultimate goal.
Okay. So how old were you at this time? So how long have you been in the trade or doing drywall since that day with the LLC?
2021, I believe. 2021.
All right. So you're not even advertising. Do you try to get some employees at that point, or you're like, I can handle this. I get these two basements. I'm going to knock those out. You start getting work. I guess you're learning all of the time. Do you start using tools at that point? Are you using
Oh,
the automatic tools?
yeah, I had already been running automatic tools, minus the bazooka at that point.
Okay.
Oh, 2000, probably 2008, 2017 or 2018, I bought my first kit,
Okay.
and I'd never ran a set of boxes in my life, but boy, did I watch hundreds of hours on how to tune them, how to maintain them, how to run them, how to whip your
Okay.
mud correct.
Okay.
And I was like, man, I really want a set of those. And at the time, I was still doing patchwork. Patchwork was my bread and butter. I could go in and knock out a patch and make it look gorgeous and match your texture and be in and out in 4 hours.
Okay.
But when I had basements to do, anything over 50 sheets, I wouldn't really want to touch on for a week. For a weekend job, I could show up over 2 weekends and get it done. But then I started watching YouTube videos about boxes and angle heads and flushers and tubes. And I'm like, man, I really want to get down on that. So I
What's your
ordered stuff.
starting point? What's your starting point there?
What do you mean?
Like, what do you order first? You said a
Oh,
set. Do you just drop 4K and order everything, or do you start with like a
no.
10 and 12 inch box, a handle, and a pump?
I bought a Columbia 12-inch, 10-inch box, a pump, 7-inch angle head, a 3 inch and a 3.5 inch angle head.
Okay, did you just buy Columbia because Phil runs Columbia?
Yep, pretty much.
That shit works. That marketing works.
My opinion, and this is just my opinion, they've got the most loyal following
Oh yeah.
of them and Tape Tech, which I've ran Tape Tech and I've ran
Okay.
a couple others, but Columbia worked for me, and I've had them for years, and I love their product, and I love that when I call them for parts before I figured out who I get my parts from down here, I called him and Aaron answered the phone one time,
Oh,
and I'm
funny.
like, dude, this is a dude I watch on YouTube, and he's like in my mind like a celebrity in the industry, and he's answering the phone and explaining how to fix this part, and that's awesome
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah, they're just normal dudes, super cool guys. I've met Phil a couple of times, and he's just the nicest guy, man. He's very humble, and Aaron as well, just some of the nicest dudes, and Elliot too. Elliot's just super cool. What are you chewing over there, sir?
Copenhagen.
All right,
I quit smoking.
I was a Cody guy for a long time, but I don't chew anymore. For the last like several years, I like do it once a month, and it opens up this Pandora box of misery, you know. But Skull, just because it's so chill, you know, I would do the Skull.
I chew these when I'm at work on the clock because I think it's rude to spit in a bottle on the job site. So these are Skull, and you swallow it. You don't have to spit the spit out.
Does it have nicotine?
Uh-huh.
Weird. I've never seen those. Is it like because I know they have pouches for like nicotine substitutes for like smoking. And so how long ago did you quit smoking and move to this system?
I quit smoking in 2014 when my son was born.
Good for you. Very cool. But now you're stuck on these weird like quasi chew things. Yeah, they'll get you.
You couldn't smoke in the coal mine, so I chew for 12 hours straight nonstop, and I tried, but that was way harder than smoking, and I smoked for a long time.
Yeah, I'm a cold turkey guy. It's like I just have to shut off the faucet. If you keep any of that nicotine flowing in, it's just a nightmare. But that's neither here nor there. It's good that you don't. I use maybe you heard on one of the podcasts, I'd use the mud box to spit in. You know, then somebody would like reach in and push like the garbage down or get their hands in it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What else? Yeah, I was doing that in Illinois too a little bit because you know, I was with the boys. I was like chewing a little bit over there. It's kind of fun to do. I try not to let the you know, the monster out of the cage though. It's like I got back home, I stopped again, and I don't recommend doing that. It's very hard.
Oh, absolutely, undoubtedly.
Yeah, it's not smart. I go through about a month of misery stopping again. Then after that, Columbia. So you choose Columbia tools based on, you know, Phil. Maybe they're kind of like the Apple of the automatic and semi-automatic tools in the industry. Tape Tech, though, you tried some Tape Tech. Why was that?
So in our area, there's only one commercial drywall distributor. It's called Negwar Materials.
Okay.
And they
how do you spell that? How do you spell that? Sorry.
Negwer. And I want to say they're national, but I know they're like more Midwest, East Coast. National. I don't think they crossed the Mississippi, but I could be wrong.
All right. Yeah. Very cool. So what was your take on Tape Tech?
I thought they were, you know, back then it was hard for me to have a take on what was better versus what wasn't. Someone could have said they were bad, and I would have said, "Oh yeah, they're awful," just because that's what I heard at that time.
Sure.
I liked them.
Yep.
I don't know. I just liked Columbia. That was the first one I went with. When my boxes I needed to get another box, so I went there and picked one up that day, and I ran it, and it ran fine. But there's just something about Columbia's that I like and I'm drawn to, and I'm a very brand loyal person. Once I get something I like, I stick to it, and I try not to stray from that.
Okay. All right. Very, very fine. And then, so the first tools that you got was, what were they? Two boxes, a handle, a pump?
A pump, and then I got a 7-inch angle head box, and then 3 and a 3.5 inch angle head.
Okay.
Which, boy, had a learning curve.
Yeah, the angle box is kind of a bitch. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Even the boxes were a bitch. I thought it was going to
Oh
be fill
yeah.
them up, run, and I was very quickly. And then I started watching the Columbia How To series, and I'd watch them over and over and over and over, and I would trial and error. I never went and bought. I bought one. I take that back. One time, I bought a sheet of drywall and started running stripes on it with different consistencies of mud. But then after the third time I'd water the bucket down, it's like, well, now this is useless. And then I switched it over and would use it on my angle heads.
What shifted for you to where you feel like you were a novice versus becoming proficient with the tools?
When
What was a key ingredient that you started doing that helped you understand the tools better?
I lost my butt on a job.
Ooh, that'll do it.
2 years ago. I thought I was hot shit because I figured out, and I thought I figured out how to run these boxes efficiently.
Okay.
And I realized, yeah, I'm filling all my bevels and I can box my butts and whatnot, but now I'm having to come back and buff all my edges, and then I'm gonna have to hand skim all this stuff. I'm like, man, I can be skimming all this with my boxes right now, and I shouldn't have to come back and buff my edges on these. So the shifting point for me was
right.
When I learned how to tune a box for the way I run, and when I could run multiple job sites in a day without having to wash my boxes and all my tools in between.
There you go. It doesn't take forever to I've talked about that. Like if you know how to clean the tools efficiently, you can do it pretty quick. I'm not going to mess around with a brush and a bucket. Like I'm always going to have a hose and a nozzle. That's just smart or whatever. That's a really good tip because I still see people like they'll run the box and then there's a dude wiping behind them, and I'm like, you shouldn't have to have that wipe guy if your tools are dialed in. Seems
right.
Like to me.
Well, and that one thing that I learned was the mud consistency played a huge part in whether or not I had to come and wipe behind.
Yeah, that has to do with like the Christmas trees and shit like that, right?
That's what I was getting ready to just say. I used to get so stressed out when I first started running boxes, my lap marks and my Christmas trees and whatnot. I would get so stressed out to make sure that there was none of that on my runs, and then I learned that I don't have to worry about that because the next day I'm gonna come by, I'm gonna hit it with my 5-inch knife, brush it off, and then we're off to the races.
Yeah, and also you're learning what you can get away with as far as the second coat on the box. There's a certain amount that it's like, all right, that's fine. That I don't have to like get crazy about sanding this coat because I know I'm aware of what's going to cover on the next coat.
Right, in which I don't sand in between coats anymore. I quit doing that a long time ago. I used to buff everything before I would go a second coat, and now I just realized, man, I wasted so many hours sanding that I didn't need to.
Right. Yeah. Very cool. So you're still relatively new, 18, 19, 20, 21, 3 years or so. You've been running the tools now. Have you gotten employees at this point?
No.
Nah.
So about 7 months ago, I took a step back from my business.
Okay.
I kept my LLC. I kept my insurance because I still do a ton of side work, but it's what I want to do. Like for instance, this Saturday,
Smart.
I've got 7 patches to go do in the house.
Okay.
And I'll knock it out in 6 hours.
Yeah, Mudman Dan's a patch guy. Like, it's kind of a bummer, though. It's kind of a bummer that for an individual business drywall company, that it's more efficient to just go around and do patches and make money that way than to finish a house. It shouldn't be that way, but we get so beat up on price that it's not it doesn't make enough money for us to go in and finish a house. And we're going to do it better than maybe a crew who doesn't give a shit, leaves mud all over the floor, like that.
I did 2 full houses while I ran my business. And the second one, I made good money on, but I stressed myself out to the max. Not because it was my fault. Oh, Nick, you're gonna like this. Okay, so do you know what a barn dominium is? Like a post frame pole barn house.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it was a barn dominium in a couple towns over. And
I've never heard the expression barn dominium. That's kind of cool, but I do love homes that are built after that style.
So I walked this house. Husband and a wife and their family built the house, and they did a very good job, and they were going to rock it. And I said, that's fine. I said, make sure you stagger your butts accordingly, so on and so forth. If there's major gaps and tons of pre-fill, that'll affect the price. And they were cool with that.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks and Nick, I show up at 6 a.m. on site, and there is mud and tape on all the walls.
Okay.
The wife came in with a roll of mesh tape, and some tree, and started caking it everywhere. Everything but the tape. She taped the inside angles and outside angles with mesh tape.
Ouch.
So I called them and I said, what the hell happened? And they explained, and I'm like, do you know how long it's going to take for me to take all of this out? Because it can't tape over it. And I spent 2 days ripping out angles and tape and sanding and pre-filling. And but after their ceiling, they had a 28-foot long butt joint on their ceiling.
Beautiful.
Oh, man.
They were using butt board, right? They were using some of that butt board? No.
No. Which I was talking to Cam Brown last night, or I'm sorry, 2 nights ago, about butt board. And I told him I'm going to send him a video on how to make your own butt board. I love butt board. I think it's a phenomenal, but I just can't. It's hard to justify that cost to a homeowner.
Okay.
So I learned how to make it on my table saw.
Shout out to Cam Brown, the famous It's Your Man Cam handle. If you're not following him, he's a pretty great guy, and he makes really funny videos.
Super solid dude. Super solid.
He is one of the nicest guys too. You'll have to come with us on one of these adventures. You're looking at your clock. Are you good? Are we good on time?
No, you're great on time. My coworker just looked over at me and gave me the middle finger.
Bring him over here. Let's talk to him.
No.
Huh? Yes.
We're in the middle of a massive remodel.
Okay. All right. Because I'll razz that fucker.
Yeah,
I'll razz him.
We're doing a strip mall right now.
I'll tell him to stop bugging us. We're in the middle of a high-profile interview, and he needs to stand down.
No kidding, right?
Okay, so wait, you're on this nightmare project. The client has not only hung it probably shittily, but they decided to, hey, we can hang. Anybody can finish drywall, right? We're going to throw up some mesh tape and run this monster butt joint.
Well, and here's the thing. They didn't do that with the anticipation to think I'm going to come in and say, hey, I'm going to charge you less now. They were like, no, we don't care about that. We just wanted to speed things up. I'm like, well, we're going to lose some days. She took a plastic 4-inch putty knife like you get with like a Drydex spackle and just would slap the screw. She just
that's how Phil does it, I think.
Yeah, totally. So thankfully I got a dual power sander, and I just went through with some 20 grit, knocked everything down. But boy, it was a long couple of days.
Ouch. And why were we talking about? Oh, we were talking about price and doing a whole house. Now, I was thinking price, getting beat up on price in that, like, you've got 20 different crews that will come in and do it cheaper and faster because the market keeps getting suppressed because these crews are coming in. Maybe they're not licensed. They'll come in and do it for way cheaper, drives the price of doing a whole house down. And then you brought up this example of like this crazy homeowner, but you didn't lose any money on that job. I mean, didn't you charge to go back and do all that?
I told him, I said, this is going to cost $1,500.
Okay.
And they told, they were bummed, and understandably, but they understood. They popped
Yeah.
in.
And what was the reasoning you gave?
Well, the reasoning I gave why I
No,
did
like,
all that,
so they're like, hey, whoa. We did all this work. You're telling us that you got to come in and take down all the tape. You got to grind all the mud off. Why?
well, I told them, I said, "Do you want to okay, I can't think of who said it, but the you spend more time staring at your walls and ceiling in your house than you do anything else.
It
So
was
do you want to
probably it was probably me. I say
yeah,
that a lot.
you're going to spend more time staring at this. Do you want to start picking it apart and being upset in your forever home, or do you want to be happy? Do you want to look at it and say, this looks awesome, I'm glad we did this?
I get that, but you could have like coded all of those butts and bands. I mean, I'm digging for something here. What is a bigger reason that you would want to pull that mesh tape and all of that mud off?
Because I could not guarantee my work. I couldn't guarantee your steam wouldn't crack. I couldn't guarantee any things wouldn't pop, and I couldn't guarantee it'd be flat.
I feel like too with the +3 and the mesh, like that shit's gonna crack,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. If I use
Like,
mesh, I use mesh a fair amount of time in the commercial setting where I work at, because I work for a commercial real estate developer now. I use mesh in 20 minute almost every day. But if I'm in someone's house for a residential space, it's fiber fuse on everything except my angles.
okay.
Big fan.
I've experienced a unique thing with fiber fuse. I like it. It works great for patching fresco because it lays real tight. I can almost do like a smear. Fresco is pretty cool to patch because you could like just, you don't have to feather out your edges or anything. You can just smear mud on over the top and then boom, blast it with a full skim coat and then seal it. So I want that patch to lay really flat. It works great for that. I've found over plaster and over round surfaces, it'll delam, especially when I'm using quickset. It like fills in and then it doesn't want to stick. I've experienced that more than once, especially if I'm doing a patch on a bullnose. Right. I don't know how much bullnose you have there, or if you've ever experienced that.
I've used bullnose one time, and if I can get away from using it, I will always get away from using it.
Okay. And then that's also a quickset versus all-purpose thing that I've noticed. It's with quickset versus all-purpose using fiber fuse.
Right. Yeah, I like fiber fuse. It seems like it absorbs into the mud better and never bubbles on me. And like you said, for patchwork, it's awesome. I get 6-inch rolls, and then I get your standard tape width, which is what, like 2 3/4.
I just got the 6-inch roll. I love it. I just used a patch around a fireplace for fresco, and I love the way it floats out like a really bad butt joint. Patches always suck. They're always like, 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch off sometimes. So that 6-inch fiber fuse seems like it works really well for that.
I use it predominantly for can lights or outlet receptacles or light switch receptacles, because it seems like now the guys in our area that board, they blow them out, or they cut an inch or two too big, and rather than throwing 3 or 4 pieces of tape around the outlet, I cut a the perfect match, the receptacle, mud it, set it over there, walk
Now
away.
there's speculation that Ice Rock came up with that. Is that true?
I don't know. I followed him after Sean from Broly's dad started giving him a bunch of shout outs. I started really looking into his page and whatnot. That guy's got a solution or a tool that works phenomenal for everything.
Yeah, he sure does. That's pretty funny. And then you were on Brawley's dad podcast, correct?
Yes.
How did he find out about you or whatever? You just started following him and liking his stuff, and he reached out?
I started following him and reaching out and liking his stuff and commenting. And then the same thing. I had a question. I don't remember what the question was. I could look back in my messages, but he sent me his number. He's like, call me sometime, man. And I did. And then we just started liking each other's stuff. And then that's when I started. I go on spurts of posting online my work, like even my business page. I'd say it's about 35-40% drywall work or some of my carpentry stuff, and then the rest is the wacky adventures me and my kids do.
Nice.
But I just started reaching out to him, and like I said earlier, he was so receptive and so open that I gravitate towards people like that, and I try to build a relative relationship to where it's like, hey man, this is awesome. Hey dude, check this out. You know what I mean? Not
Smart.
like we're buddies, we're online friends.
Yeah. Switching gears a little bit. Do you run the fiber fuse through the bazooka?
I don't run a bazooka.
Whoa, buddy. Whoa. We're gonna have to delete this entire interview. I thought you ran the bazooka.
No, I haven't. I don't run it, and I've only ran it a handful of times.
What the hell, dude? Fire that thing up.
I still have got. I can run it. I wouldn't say I can run it efficiently.
Sure. Do you have a Predator?
No, I have a level 5 bazooka.
Okay. All right. No shame. Shout out to level 5. Did they send you one or something, or you bought it?
Oh, I bought it.
Why did you choose level 5?
I bought it from a guy a couple towns over, and I got a really good deal. And again, I went to YouTube to learn how to run it. I reached out to a couple people to pick their brain on it, and it was just trial and error. But for me, even when I've got like a 50, 60, 70 sheet basement to do, you bury yourself so fast. Once you get in your little groove, even for someone like me, you bury yourself on wiping down your tapes, and you're going backwards, in my opinion, for at least the way I operate.
Yeah. 50, 60. Yeah, I would bust out the bazooka for that, but it's like kind of has to be big enough, but it's worth it. It's especially if you own one, and you're proficient at it. You've got to be quick at it.
Efficiency.
Yeah, because I could run out of all of the butts and fast enough that I could go back and wipe them, and then just do like 10 stand-ups and then go and do the roller, glazer, like all of that.
I use a Delco Zunder banjo.
Okay.
For about 90% of my taping.
Yeah, why do you like the Delco versus a regular banjo?
Well, it's not that I like it more. It's what I have. I bought a Marshalltown when I first started getting taping tools, and I really like it. Got the metal head, and it tears paper tape really, really well. Whereas the Zunder, you got a knife to cut your tape.
Right. I have one of those. I have like a metal with the open flap. I like it. It works good.
Yep. But I like that I can switch to that inside corner roller real fast.
Oh, okay.
I've never had hiccups with it, and it works good. And I bought a holster for it, so when I'm on my stilts, I can just strap it to my leg and keep going.
Who sells a holster?
I don't know who sells it, but I got mine off of allwall.com.
Okay. Oh, well, interesting.
It's hilarious because it's got 2 straps. You put one around your waist and one around your thigh, and it looks like you got a big old gunslinger belt on your leg.
Yeah, you do. You have a banjo slinger holster. It seems interesting to me that you gravitated towards the box tools, the mud, all that, but you're hesitant with the bazooka.
Yeah, it's an intimidating tool. There's a lot of running parts. There's a lot of moving parts. If you don't know how to maintain it or fix it, you're dead in the water, and you're sitting on a $2,000 paperweight.
Yeah,
and
I guess so.
I think if I would have kept taping houses and maybe brought another guy on to wipe and pull tapes behind me, it would have made sense. But like I said, for me, I load that banjo up and I run all my butts. I come back, wipe them, then I start running them flat.
Yeah, you get your little system down. It's hard to change, man.
Right. It's a flow for me.
Yeah. So you were talking about maybe after this nightmare job or whatever, we were talking about shifting or employees. You're doing more of what you want, and you alluded to maybe doing something else or moving beyond drywall. Let's go there a little bit.
Oh yeah, I loved running my business, and I loved drywall, and I loved finishing. And I've heard people say that no one loves drywall. If you can make the same amount of money doing something else, you wouldn't. I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I'm very
Yeah.
passionate. I enjoy it, but it got to be too much running the business. I'd be out in the field 6 days a week, 12, 13, 14 hours a day. And then
Okay.
I'd have to come home and run my own books and do my own scheduling and my own billing and POs and everything. And it just, it was robbing too much time from my wife and kids. So
Yeah.
I made the choice to step away, and I was doing a fair amount of work for who I'm currently employed with. And, I said,
Okay.
"Hey, if you're looking for a W-2 guy, man, you can take me on." He's like, "Absolutely, come to work." So I stepped away and started doing that about 7 months ago.
He was probably happy to have you. So now you're doing more piece rate, yeah?
Yeah. So are you talking about like when I still finish drywall?
Are you doing different W-2 work?
Oh yeah, with him. Oh, with my boss. Yeah. So he is a commercial real estate developer, and
Okay.
I want to say we manage he between owning and managing about 1.5 million to 1.7 million square feet of commercial real estate.
Okay.
So whenever a business leaves one of these buildings, these massive 100,000 square foot buildings that are chopped up into suites, when they
Yeah.
leave, my partner Nick and I, we come in, we demo them out, we meet with the engineer and the designers and the architects and get our permits and our plans, and we reframe them. We sub out majority of the plumbing, electrical, and then we hang all the rock and I finish it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very,
And
very cool. And well, when did Nick come into the picture? When did you meet that character?
Nick's been here a little longer than I have, and he
Is
is
that the guy that's razzing you?
yeah.
Dude, Nick,
He,
Nick, you're
he
lucky. You're lucky that Cullen didn't allow you on the podcast because I was going to give you a serious what for.
he's a good dude. He was a framer for a lot of years, phenomenal framer, and him and I have a great system when we frame. He does all the layout and cutting, and then I do all the building and stand up.
Okay, cool.
And we can knock out some footage in a day.
Yeah, I'll bet. And then you hang or you sub out the hanging.
We hang.
Okay.
We if you look back on my stories, you'll see one of our material loads. We did a build out for a special needs school here locally, and it was approximately 50,000 square feet, and it was 980 sheets of 12-foot drywall.
Okay.
And we brought
Nice.
a couple guys in on that, but it was a beast.
And then of course you finish all that work.
I teamed up with another. We have one company that does majority of our, like, if we're doing footage like that, we bring in a company, but I always help them do it just for reasons.
Because you like doing it.
Yeah, that, and we have a standard, and it's not that these guys
Yeah.
we don't. It's not that they don't meet our standards. It's just sometimes you need to have someone there whose name is on that building, and who's going to be in there every day to say, "Hey, no, we need to do this way." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and you can regulate quality.
And I like to finish it, and I always try to
And
finish it.
yeah, yeah. So you get to work with maybe some different finishers periodically and play around and learn some new stuff, maybe, or you can teach them new stuff.
Right. Yeah. And the guys that we use, they're a great group of guys. They're
Cool.
they're they're pretty much all about the business.
Cool. So you'd say this is a new model for you. This is enabling you to have more time with your family and create more of the life that you want. Why is that?
Because I put my 45 in and I'm done.
Okay.
I don't I still bring my work home just because Nick and I do all the scheduling with our subs, and we schedule our work week for our maintenance logs and whatnot. But I'm able to clock out once I'm in my truck. For the most part, I turn the podcasts on and cruise on home, and I'm not stressing about the next day. What's the carpentry one I listen to? I'm drawing a blank right now. Spencer Lewis has been on it quite a few times. The Modern Craftsman. Modern Craftsman's a really good one.
Okay.
And I listen to Joe Rogan. There's a couple others I bounce between.
Okay. Yeah, there's one called TLC. I think that the three-way guys have been on.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, that
And
one's
then
pretty cool.
they quit doing it a couple years back, but Kyle Stumpenhorse from RR Buildings, he had a podcast with a couple with Mikey the Maker and a couple other guys, and it
Okay.
just they would just rant and rave and BS and talk about the industry in a whole.
Very cool. And the Drywall podcast is, of course, your favorite podcast, right?
Number one.
I appreciate that, man. I started doing this and it's like, well, maybe they'll like it, maybe they won't. But I, I, I don't know exactly. There's numbers that we have on Podbean where they can pull up where people are listening from. It's pretty good though. I'm jazzed about it. It's been a neat thing.
But it seems like it's afforded you some really awesome opportunities to not. I mean, your product was already out there, but you got to go to Canada and do the
Yeah.
CSR event.
Oh
You
yeah.
got people. It just seems like it's helped really push the product. Not that the product needed help being pushed, but it allowed you to another platform to get it out there and do some really cool stuff and see some cool places.
Oh, the product needed help being pushed. I mean, don't kid yourself. You think that like you see these products and these guys, you think like, oh, Columbia's everywhere. Everybody uses Columbia. It's like the best. But it's like marketing in this space is really hard. That said, have I sent you a sample pack? Have you tried out the Fresco?
No, I want to.
Okay.
I saw what Jason Griffin did at his house with Fresco, and granted, he took it a step further and he hand painted all the veins and whatnot, and it
Yeah.
was awesome. It's just I see what everyone does online, and for me, I can see it, but like when I show homeowners or like when I show my boss, I'm like, hey man, we have to rip all this wallpaper out instead of me skimming all these walls. There's this really awesome product called Fresco
Mhm.
Harmony. You should put down on it. It's relatively inexpensive.
Yeah.
Maintenance great. There's no sanding or painting, and it's just until you can get it in your hands and visually see it. I
Yes.
think, I think people are hesitant, and I'm going to when I get the right time. Um, I
Well, now's the time, buddy. I'm going to send you a sample pack. So I will. I'll send you a link, and then just fill out the link. But the main thing with sales is having a sample and a color chart, and be like,
yes,
a nice 21 by 16 sample, and be like, this is what it looks like, dude. We can go over this wallpaper. We'll throw some red guard on it. Maybe use the fiberfuse sheets, cover it
right,
up, whatever, and then we'll just blow it out. Same thing with popcorn. Scrape it, blow it out with Fresco, done.
hell yeah,
No paint.
hell
So
yeah.
yeah, I'll send you that link. A system that you use now that has shifted your perception. Maybe you were doing drywall a certain way and you were reluctant to change and use something new, but you started using this new system and it changed the way you do drywall. Do you have anything like that where you've been blown away by a tool or something recently and it's changed the way you do drywall?
Yep, skimming blades.
Skimming
I
blades.
yep, I thought they were a lot of hype, and now I cannot imagine finishing drywall without them.
Why?
Oh, just the time savings.
Uh,
It's so like when I
like because you're doing less strokes over the butt or something?
yeah, so I use them a lot whenever I skim out walls after ripping out wallpaper. I roll
Okay.
I'll fill in all the gouge marks and whatnot, and then I'll come back and I'll roll on some plus three, and then
Okay.
instead of using my hawk to wipe them down, or my trowel to wipe them down, I'll use my 32-inch skimming blade.
Okay.
It,
That makes
it
sense.
it gives a much cleaner finish.
So for
Although you should,
skimming a wall specifically, it's quicker.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
skimming wall butt joints on nasty butt joints.
Yeah.
I've got opinion on them. Although I do use them a lot, sometimes it's just an extra tool to carry around and clean and watch out for when I can just do it by hand and spend an extra minute or two.
Okay. And you're
And
using the level 5 skimming blades, I assume?
no, you're watch the rabbit punches. No, I've got the Columbia ones.
You got the Columbias. Okay. Did you get like that? They have this beautiful like kit with like 4 or 5 skimming blades in it.
No, I bought them piece by piece.
Okay.
I've got an 18 and a 32 inch.
Okay. Yeah, because under 18, you're just going to go to your 14-inch broad knife.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which
All right.
I run about a 70-30 split between pan and knife and hawk and trowel.
Okay. All right.
Which,
Interesting. You are one of the few interviewees that runs both pan and knife and hawk and trowel. That's cool.
and I hold my trowel upside down from the traditional way of holding it. And so instead of having the hook of your handle on your index finger, I run the open index finger.
Okay. You run it upside down always.
Yeah, always.
Why?
And there's a YouTube page and Instagram page called the Drywall Gangsters.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
And that's how they ran it. And so when I wanted to learn how to run hawk and trowel, that's how they held it. And so that's how I started holding it. And I've tried to run it the other way.
When I cut in backwards, I flip it upside down because when I run the trowel, when I'm skimming walls, I only use one side of my trowel. A lot of people do this back and forth. I only use one side. So when I go to run the inside angle, I flip it upside down and pull out the inside angle. And I'm always running one side because I'm only cleaning one side. So if you clean the back side of your trowel, it keeps your inside angle nice and clean.
Super crispy.
Yeah. Do you run both sides of your trowel or just one side?
I run both sides.
Okay.
It all depends on the application, but I try to use when I first started running the hawk and trowel, I was like, this is the silliest thing I've ever done. And now for skimming out walls and whatnot, I don't think I could do it nearly as fast and efficient as with a pan and knife.
Okay. Yeah, me too. I like if I'm doing drywall type stuff, I'll use a pan and a knife. I use a pan and a knife for like a patch. You put on the tape, float it out once, float it out again with a knife, and then trowel it out.
Yeah.
And then your pearl of wisdom, buddy.
My pearl of wisdom. Don't be a dick. Don't be a dick. Just be nice to everybody, and the world will be a much better.
Easier said than done sometimes, man. But yes, I agree. Sometimes I have to stop myself. I want to be a dick. And maybe some people think I am a dick, but yeah, like I heard something, I was talking to a friend last night, Chad Hesher, and he said something that really pissed me off. And I wanted to blow up this guy's site today. And I stopped myself and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go around and everyone that has posted that frustrates me, maybe they're doing plaster, doing something I don't like. I'm going to go and like their stuff and comment that nice work or something. Like it's such a good practice. And it got me out of that space of like, F you, you're doing it wrong. Why are you such a dick? Or just being mean,
Right. Or a better one, control the controllables. Don't worry about everything else.
Control the controllables.
Don't worry about anything else.
Another is the Serenity Prayer. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I should know it. I went to Catholic school for 11 years. I should have it memorized, but I don't.
It's a recovery thing too. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Control the controllables. There are certain things that are out of our control that accept it, move on. And there's certain things that we can't control. Give me the wisdom to really know the difference. Things I can control versus the things that I can't. Things I can control, maybe, take a look at that. I love it though. I love the Serenity Prayer.
Do you know what the one about knowledge and wisdom is?
What? Let's hear it.
Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit, and wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad.
I like it. Or eat it, because I don't like tomatoes. Like wisdom is like, don't even eat it.
You are out.
I know. They're good for you. If you're a tomato lover out there, shout out. Tomatoes are good for you. Thank you so much, Cullen, for being on the Drywall Podcast. This was a good one. I'm not lying to you, man.
No, Nick, I appreciate you having me on, man. I always get nervous coming on to a podcast. Granted, this is my second one. You've had so many awesome finishers, men and women alike, just really great people. And then I get asked to come on. It's like, what am I going to say, or what do I have to offer to this community that's afforded me so many great things? And I really appreciate it, dude. And keep it up. I look forward to it every week to hear these.
I appreciate it so much. And thank you so much too. Cullen is one of those guys in his page that's always liking my stuff. That's why I reached out. I was like, this guy is always popping up, man. Make yourself known on social media. If you're scared or nervous to post something, just post it, man. We all want to see what you're up to, and it builds community. And it's great to finally, now when Elite pops up or Cullen Selinger pops up, I know exactly who it is. Now, boom, it's like we've got a reference. And you are going to be on one of our adventures soon. Yeah. I know it, dude. We're opening this concept of let's all go to a job and do a job together. How cool is that? It's so much fun. And you're going to be in the running for, anybody that'll want to come and play around and have fun. We're gonna open it up. It's gonna be awesome.
For sure. Well, Nick, I appreciate you having me, buddy, and I look forward to it.
All right, bud. You have an awesome day, and tell Nick he's next on the list.
Hey, you take care, brother. Have a great day.
All right, later.
See ya.
What a great interview. Thank you so much, Cullen, for being with us on the Drywall Podcast today. I really appreciate your time and your knowledge. Curious about being on the Drywall Podcast, or maybe you know somebody who would like to be on the Drywall Podcast, feel free to message me anytime, info@frescoharmony.com, or you can call me at 505-400-9313. I would love to hear from you. The Drywall Podcast can be listened to in its entirety on your favorite platforms such as Podbean, Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, and you can also watch the entire video on YouTube. Head over there, give us a subscribe. We sincerely appreciate it. Join us next week as we have Sean Fawcett of Signature Finish Renovations out of Guelph, Ontario, or the Foz, as they call him. We have a fantastic discussion. But until then, I hope you guys have an amazing Friday and a beautiful weekend. And remember, as always, keep drywalling.